We're going to stand up for the budget. I mean, actually, they'll stand over there for us. So we'll start with that. We're going to do roll call for Perry Village Council.
All right, Elias Koss, Brian Farley. Here. Dan Jenkins.
Here.
Curtis Kurd.
Here.
Mike Glover. Here. Becky Shimko. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse the mayor who lost his mother this past Saturday from the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so first and foremost, for those of you guys who do not know me, my name is Elias Koss. I am the president of council and the acting city mayor while mayor's on. So I want to kind of go over a few things before I hand this over to the Providence Group. First, I would like to thank Nikki Trescar, Top Porcello, for working with me the past couple of days with getting this room reserved and allowing it to be a bigger venue for more people to attend. So thank you guys very much. Also, I would like to thank and welcome the school board that's here, the township trustees, their sorry, any judge members that are here, all of village council for your attendance today. A couple of rules before we get started. This is a presentation. This is a meeting. There will be no public comment at any point. I want to make everybody aware that if there's any outbursts, you'll be asked not to. And if it continues, you will be escorted politely out of the building. There will be no Q&A from the public or the officials, trustees, village, school, judge, and the fire department. I also have water in a cooler over here. There's also water in the back. So if you're thirsty or whatever, you need water, you're more than welcome to help yourself to it. Also, the restrooms are behind me. The man is lit up and the women's is right around the corner. So if you need to use the restrooms quietly and politely, feel free to go ahead and use it. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Providence Group. Mark.
Thank you, Councilmember. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Kerslake with the Providence Group. Happy to be here this evening and tell you a little bit more about what we're calling the Perry Technology Park on the former site of Champion Farm. There have been a lot of questions, and hopefully we've answered some of those, and we'll be able to provide a lot more information tonight about the project. First, just a little bit about economic development, which is the main topic this evening. The municipalities and agencies here in town have three primary sources of revenues. But the local municipal income taxes, and then what we call pilot payments. That stands for a payment in lieu of taxes. You'll be hearing and learning more about that tonight. That doesn't currently exist here in town, so we'll be providing those payments. And importantly, what those revenue sources go to, all the things that you're familiar with, the emergency services that are critical. You have terrific schools here in town. That's obviously very important, as well as community amenities and programs and the local parks. So just a little bit of background, I think. Go ahead, and one thing too, new revenues help prevent local levies. As you know, there's the Perry Joint Fire District levy pending now. One reason that's levied is there's not a revenue source to pay for that. We intend to be a revenue source for the long term to avoid future levies. Thanks. So just a little bit of background, most of you may be familiar with this. The village and the township purchased Champion Farm a few years ago for the express purpose of economic development. The village formed what's called the entire village is within the CRA that was formed in 2017. The property was then listed with the national brokerage firm, Cushman & Wakefield, for several years. With no real offers until we made our offer. And we've talked about it, a lot of local agencies here in Perry are in need of additional funding. So some of the key project benefits, you'll be hearing a lot more about this tonight. By the way, this presentation, I see some of you taking photos, which is terrific, but we're also going to email this evening. This will be posted on the village web. It'll be live. The land sale proceeds are $12 million. So that's $12 million that'll go to the Perry Township. Perry Village is about $8.6 million. And the Joint Economic Development District will also benefit. By the way, on the village proceeds, the village currently has a general fund reserve balance of $2.1 million, 2.1 million. So when we close on the land later this year, that $8.5 million to the village will take the village reserves from 2 million to 10 million. That's significant. So that's one benefit. There are going to be other immediate benefits that Tim will describe for you later that will occur at the land closing, and then sustained community benefits and economic contributions over the life of the project. There'll be a lot of near-term construction jobs, and at a full build-out, we expect 200 full-time jobs and an average compensation level of $80,000 a year. And there's a lot of direct and indirect job creation as a result of a project like this. There's an ecosystem to support a project like this. A lot of the vendors and contractors that support a project like this on an ongoing basis. You're going to hear more tonight about the local, impacts, and projects like this are very low in terms of traffic, unlike a lot of other uses. And again, this will provide some vital new revenue for all of the local agencies. And immediate benefits, we talked about the 12 million land closing, just in that proceed amount invested conservatively at 4% as just interest income alone is $480,000. And at closing, we're going to be contributing $2.7 million for immediate community benefits. So you're going to hear more about pilot programs, but that's the initial pilot program. So at closing, we'll pay $12 million and sellers and an additional $2.7 million to the village that's going to jumpstart some immediate community needs. And that is part of the pilot program. And then the land taxes. So you'll learn in a few moments, the land component is not subject to abatement. So the taxes on the land, once we close, will be about $268,000 a year versus just in property taxes. I wanted to introduce Scott Ziams with Fiores, who's an abatement expert and can tell you a little bit more about CRAs and.
Hi, everybody. So just Mark asked me to just give a little bit of context on what I do. I'm a lawyer at the Voorhees Law Firm. I'm based in our Columbus office. We have 4 offices here in Ohio, Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, and Columbus. What I do is oh, sorry. Thank you. So Scott Zients from the Voorhees Law Firm. We have 4 offices here in Ohio, one in Columbus where I'm based, one in Cleveland, one in Akron, and one in Cincinnati. And I'm a state and local tax lawyer who does a lot of tax incentive work, including in this space. So they wanted me, Mark and Tim wanted me to explain the community reinvestment area exemption proposal, a big picture, and just to explain the process a little bit more. So first, what a CRA is. CRA, community reinvestment area exemptions, have been in the Ohio Revised Code longer than I've been practicing. That's why I was able to tell. So they're used by communities. You heard that Perry has one set up that covers the whole village to incent investment. They can be used for residential, they can be used for commercial, they can be used for industrial. They're typically used, in fact, all the data centers I've seen in Ohio that have been developed have used a CRA exemption. What that does is it provides an exemption. Importantly, it's only on the building improvement value, and it's generally a maximum of 15 years, which is what we're asking for here. It can be 100% with school board approval. We're not asking for that. We're asking for 15 years, 75% exemption. So as you can see from the slide, again, the land value is not going to be abated. So Mark indicated, how much revenue will be coming into the village once the closing happens. In addition to that, this land right now, the site is producing zero in tax revenue since it's owned by the city. It will become taxed, and we expect it will be taxed at the land purchase price of about 12 million. And again, the projections are that will provide over 250,000 a year in annual property tax revenue that will not be abated at all. And then 25% of the improvement value will be taxed like normal. And key to remember here, these buildings are really, really valuable. They're really costly. So that 25% is a high number. We have a projection later that shows what that is. And then again, the last bullet sort of makes that point. Even with property tax payment, this is going to generate a significant amount of revenue. We're asking for the property. That's why we're asking for the property tax payment. Some people always ask that. We want to be able to compete on a level playing field. What our objective, and we hope the majority of the people in the village's objective is to try to attract a great end user to use this data center. They have choices, and we want to basically have a competitive playing field. Stay choose Perry to come and create great jobs, and you hopefully make you proud to have one of them in your communities. Okay, so Mark mentioned pilots, I think briefly. So pilots are payments in lieu of tax. It's something that is commonly used in what I do. And what they are, they are what they sound like. When you get an abatement, you often make a deal to make payments that are partially in return for you having some taxes paid or exempted. So there will be pilot payments as part of this project, and we're going to be revealing what those proposed pilots are. What Mark and Tim have done a lot of work on the past few months is really listening to try to understand what the community needs are. That's sort of driving what the proposed pilots, who they're going to. Again, those are going to be staying local here in Perry. They're not going to the county. They're again, the school district is going to get a portion of 25%. There will be pilots to the school district, and there will be pilots to others. Again, so what this does is that this will provide a lot of money up front from the land closing, the continual taxes on the land, and then these upfront pilots that you'll see in a moment. Again, they will. You might ask when they're going to start. They're tied to building completion because that's when the exemption commences. Again, payments in lieu of taxes. It's not payments in advance of taxes. So they'll start whenever the taxes would otherwise begin. So we had some.
Thank you, Scott. Back over to me. So finally, we get to share some good news about the project that I think a lot of people have been wondering. So we've hired a firm, you'll see in a minute. That's the tax revenue from this project for its first 31 years, over $326 million in tax revenue. That is with the abatement program that we're proposing. And that's without pilots. So that's what we're proposing. And again, that's with an abatement, and that's without any pilot program. Tim's going to get into pilots in a few moments, but the pilot payments are in addition to that. That's the tax revenue from this project. And then Tim, there's going to be a lot of detail now. I believe in showing our work. So Tim will walk you through how that number is calculated.
Hi there. My name's Tim Ram, and we hired a firm called Bradley Payne Associates and their affiliate group, Incentive Review Group, to go through and make sure that this is all being modeled correctly and that it demonstrates the outcome that Mark just showed you. They're a firm that works for school districts, vocational districts. They work for special financial districts, and they work for real estate development projects. So they have a wide breadth of this type of modeling work across the state of Ohio. And so we relied on the third-party experts with this information that I'm about to show you here. So this is a lot of detail, obviously, but it's the assumptions that are driving all of this modeling here. They've done a good job of verifying all of the taxing authorities, the taxing rates. They have verified that the CRA is in place. This reflects the CRA period of 15 years, and then the abatement percentage of 75%. This shows the 6 buildings that we've proposed on the site, the footage. This reflects timing. The project is not all built at once. It's built in phases, as we've indicated. So it comes online over a period of about 5 years. And you can see the valuations. And then maybe more importantly, on the far right, the current appraised value at 0. And by the way, like Mark said, we'll be making this available to the village to put on the website. So if you would like to take a look at the numbers and the details, you'll have the ability to do that. Again, the current appraised value of the site, it doesn't generate any revenues. This shows the project's taxable appraised value, and it's just a summary. You can see that the numbers start low as the project starts to be constructed, and then it's built in phases and increases in value certainly over time as all of the buildings are built, completed, and then operational. This is really the summary and the crux of the bottom line, if you will, the distribution of the real property taxes based on the current tax schedules here. The third column here, I don't know if you can see this very well, but it shows that the village makes just under $10 million over the first 31 years of the abatement period. The township makes $10.6 million, the school district, $155 million, the fire district, $38 million, the Auburn Joint Vocational Schools, $7.7 million. The county stands to gain $46 million as a result of the project, that build out. The Lakeland Community College, which is, I believe, embedded within the county portion of the taxes, is over $15 million. The Park District, over $14 million. Significant sums. The Lake County Financing District, over $21 million. And then the Perry Township Library District, over $6.5 million during this initial period of the project. So in total, again, showing the math, $326 million in revenues. That's the number. And again, that's with the abatement period for 15 years, and that excludes the pilot payments. So that's just pure math based on the building valuation, the investment, and the. So this slide shows a summary of direct benefits to the residents. As Mark indicated, or Scott indicated, I think, we've spent the last couple of months talking to a number of different stakeholders, trying to learn what's important in the community. And I think that the messaging was generally pretty clear as to what's important to residents, what some of the benefits are that they would like to see. We heard very clearly that the schools are important. We heard that that senior center is very important. We heard that the parks and rec are very important. And so you'll see as I get into the details of the pilots that there are funds earmarked for all of those groups, not only upfront with the land sale closing, but also ongoing over time as a part of the project. So the first one, and we've heard this pretty routinely, is provide free trash service for village residents. So we've committed to do that. The next item is enhanced and free recreational opportunities for the Park and Rec District and all of the sports teams, and so we've committed to do that also. the senior center, we've heard pretty regularly, is an important part and benefit in the community. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I've talked to Tina at the senior center. I've spoken to Matt at the Parks and Rec District to learn more about what the needs are and how we might be able to help fund various programs and make the teams cheaper or free for a variety of needs. Again, some of the pilots here will lead to stronger schools and education programs. You'll see where some of the funds are earmarked for. It certainly provides better funding of fire and emergency response services. Not only the $38 million that you saw in the property tax proceeds over time, but there are immediate upfront pilot payments for the fire district, and then also additional pilot payments ongoing over time. Again, it's a new revenue source, and we understand that there are services that are earmarked for being cut by the county. And then again, this prevents future levies when you have this order of magnitude, $326 million plus pilot payments on top of that. That will certainly help prevent future levies. Here. These are upfront pilot payments to be paid at the land sale closing later this year. The project is not up and running initially. It gets built over time. And so what you see here is the commitment to pay the trash service one time a week for residential customers upfront. We've heard from the mayor. We've talked to the trash haulers. There's a formula that allows this to be paid and pick up the first 3 years while the buildings are getting up and running. So that's one of the commitments. We've also met with the fire chief and toured the fire station and looked at some of the equipment needs. And so Mark actually sat in the ambulance that is in dire need of refurbishment. We've committed to pay for the refurbishment to extend the lifeline of those ambulances with the land sale closing. So we'll be paying $500,000 upfront to retrofit those 2 ambulances. That also includes 2 new life packs that go within the ambulances that are critical equipment that tells all of the vital signs of the patient in the ambulance to the hospital ahead of time, so they have real-time information. And so those will both be replaced with the new ambulances. The village needs a police cruiser, so we'll fund that. That's part of the commitment. And again, the senior center comes up here. You'll see the $75,000. That's $25,000 a year for 3 years. And speaking with Tina, there are 800 members of that senior center now. They pay $12 for membership. We will fund the membership of all of those folks. There's also 25 field trips a year that I know are popular. And so we've committed to pay for that expense also, making the membership and those trips free to the members. So that's paid in 3 years up front, and then you'll also see that ongoing.
Guys, I just got a couple of texts. People are having a hard time hearing him through the live stream, so I'm going to ask you please to remain quiet.
Turn up volume.
Volume.
Mike, you can't hear back here.
Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Great. This next line item, it's $150,000 paid upfront at the land sale closing. This is the youth rec sports vouchers and equipment. In speaking with Matt, we've committed to $50,000 per year, and you'll see some of this will also jumpstart the equipment needs and some of the ball field repairs that are needed these days. And so that's a direct benefit to the community to help enhance the equipment and defray the costs of those sports teams. He's also contemplating, it sounds like, adding some new sports, which could be a benefit as well. We understand that the POW and MIA War Memorial is in need of some additional funding to get completed. We certainly value our veterans and are committed to picking up the balance remaining of $50,000 with the closing of the land to finish that important memorial project here. Certainly in some of our discussions with stakeholders, we heard how important Lighted Park is, and that's a real asset in the community. And so there's a need for a new all-weather pavilion. This payment helps with that, certainly. There are field improvements, again, that I've spoken to Matt about in enhancing the facilities there. So this $200,000 at the closing is intended to provide those immediate benefits to the community. Playground equipment, I saw listed a couple of different times as something that would be attractive. And so we've made the commitment again at closing to provide for new equipment and fencing. There was also, I saw a couple of different needs for tractors and lawnmowers. And so $50,000 certainly covers that at Lighted Park, and then another one that made on Roses. The village has some equipment needs for computers and radios, is our understanding. So there's a payment to help with that. We've also heard various discussions as we've been here over the last 2 years with this project in the village offices and council chambers about the landscaping in front of the village and doing some general beautification. So there's a payment that at closing that will help with that. And then a general $250,000 lump sum payment. There are road needs and others that will be a benefit to the village to help with those improvements as the village council decides. There's more pilots, a whole nother page. So these are also paid at the land sale closing. The township has improvement needs, so there's a lump sum payment to the township of $250,000. And now here you see a number of the important community groups that play a central role in the life and benefits of the community here. It's the Perry Center, which is obviously a very worthwhile cause. We've earmarked $12,000 a year for 3 years to be paid upfront. That's $1,000 a month. And you'll also see that these payments continue over time with the project. So this is just the upfront initial 3-year portion of that. The same is true of the Athletic Hall of Fame, the Theater Guild, the Band Boosters. I've heard a number of times is in need of funds. And so this makes a commitment to provide funds to the Band Boosters. The Athletic Boosters, I know Perry really cherishes their athletes and their sports programs. And so there's some payment to them up front to jumpstart that. The Mighty Mites Wrestling is included, youth football and cheer, the Women's League, and certainly the PTA. All of those have funding, not only upfront with these pilots paid at closing, but also over time, they're ongoing. The Fall Festival, we heard about numerous times as we were working our way through the village council chambers. And I know that that's a great event here, that it gets a lot of attendance. I know how much hard work and effort and energy goes into that. It's about $10,000 per event to put that on. And we will sponsor that for the next 3 years with our payment at the land sale closing. And you'll also see the ongoing payments, that those payments continue to pick up that special event. And then finally, there's a village community fund that is $60,000 a year for 3 years paid at closing. It's $180,000 that can be used by the village. We've heard some differing opinions about what it should be used for, either improvements or potentially salaries for additional staff. And so that would be a payment that would help with those needs as the village decides. So the upfront pilots, again, $2.7 million paid at the land sale closing. I'm going to take a breath. Okay, now pivoting to the ongoing pilot payments. So these are payments that would be made over the course of the project. They're larger numbers because they're over a longer duration of time. Again, it picks up the free trash here that we talked about. The fire district is an additional $2.4 million over the abatement period. So with the pilot and the property taxes, again, that's over $40 million during the initial 31 years of this project. And hopefully that is enough to help defray future levies, which I think is, I've heard from a number of stakeholders also, is important to people here. The senior center, again, this is the continuation of that $25,000 a year to help with the free membership and pick up those field trips. Again, we have the continuation of the sports vouchers that totals over $600,000 ongoing, which I think is important to help continue to keep the rec league great and maintain the fields in tip-top condition. You have, again, here, a number of other community groups that are strong partners in the community. And so there's additional funds for each of them. Again, the Perry Center, the Athletic Hall of Fame, the Theater Guild, the Band Boosters, the Athletic Boosters, the Mighty Mike's Wrestlers, the Youth Football and Cheer, the Women's League, and the PTA. And so those are funded long-term with the commitment from this project. The Village Community Fund, again, with the $60,000 a year over the abatement period, total $720,000 with the ongoing pilot payments. So the total of all of those without the school district is just under $8 million in continuing payments. And what these don't include are the Perry local schools at this point. We have had a meeting with the local schools, and our consultant at Bradley Payne is engaged with them to make sure that there is a pilot program that is beneficial for the school district. And so there will be continuing meetings, and we're working towards an announcement on that front as well. So that number of 7.9 million will only grow once the school district, an important aspect of the community, is added.
I'll give Tim a break. By the way, if the council elects to go forward with this proposal that we're making, everything Tim has just shared with you is a contractual commitment. So there would be a CRA agreement between us and the village. And if we don't do any of the things that Tim just showed you, the agreement is cancelable and the abatement goes away. So these are all contractual commitments, and if we breach them, we lose the abatement. So there's teeth and there's enforcement to what Tim has shared with you. In the first slide I showed with you, I mentioned there are three principal revenue sources. Property taxes, we've covered that. Pilots, Tim has just gone through in great detail. And the third component is the municipal income tax. So wanted to cover that and appreciate your payments or your patience. We're almost wrapped up here. There are two components for the payroll taxes. So the first is during construction. We anticipate about 350 construction jobs over the 5-year build out. Average compensation of around $65,000. So about $23 million of payroll, and at 2% local income tax rate, that will, over 5 years, that will provide about 2.3 million in payroll tax revenue to the village, of which you may not know, the school, Perry Local Schools receives half of that amount. And then the second component is at build out. We mentioned earlier, once the facility is up and running, there will be 200 full-time jobs and about 80,000 a year. So an ongoing payroll of $16 million a year, which again, the same 2% provides $320,000 a year in tax revenue, payroll tax revenue, of which 160,000 a year goes to Perry Local Schools. Tim has covered this previously, but just to highlight, again, we've showed it a couple of times, but Those are the recipients of the $326 million in property taxes. And then just to wrap it up in closing, so now this merges all three of the revenue sources and the land sale. So we start with the property taxes over 31 years, $326 million. The upfront pilots that Tim just covered, $2.7 million, which would be paid at the land closing later this year. The $12 million of land sale proceeds to the three selling agencies. Interest on the land sale proceeds, if you calculate that. Then we have the ongoing pilots that are about $8 million. And that's without the school district, which as Tim mentioned, we're engaged with, and in fact, we're meeting with tomorrow. So that's to be determined. And then the payroll taxes that I just highlighted, about $2.2 million during construction and $10 million ongoing. So the grand total over the first 31 years of the project is $376 million in local revenue combined. So pretty staggering numbers.
So on our town.
And then again, two information sources for you. We're launching a project website. It'll be live tomorrow. Please don't go on it tonight and tell me it doesn't work. It'll be live tomorrow, Perry Technology Park. We would encourage you to go there. And then this entire presentation will be posted on the village website tomorrow, so everyone can go back through it. So thank you for your patience. Council, thank you for the opportunity and having us this evening.
Don't sell us out, council.
Don't take it. Oh, Village, you guys don't care about us. You care about its money.
Thank you very much.
You can just find without you. You moved in. You drink
We're
the
still,
water.
guys, we're still in meeting.
Sorry.
Motion to adjourn. In favor?
Aye.
Thank you.